Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I'm joined by the man himself, WWE Hall of Famer, legend, the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase, fresh back from the UK. How was your trip over there?
Yeah, everything was good, man. It went really, really well. And I mean, like, it's like my first stop was Aberdeen. And Aberdeen was like, basically Aberdeen is in Scotland.
Yeah.
And so I went to Aberdeen, and that was like a Comic-Con, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday though, Monday morning they flew me from Aberdeen to London, and I had the rest of that day off. And then Tuesday I did signings and appearances. Wednesday I did signings and appearance. Thursday I did signing and appearance, and then Friday I flew home. It was all very good.
Man, a whirlwind, and I know that
they're called Monopoly events, and they do a lot. I mean, I'm sure that Jake's gone over there. Everybody's gone over there for these guys, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hacksaw's about to be going over there, our buddy, and we're actually talking about Hacksaw today because we're looking back 40 years to 1985 and the Best Dressed Man competition in Mid-South. I know it's got to be like a knife wound hearing that's 40 years ago. Again, for a reminder for our listeners, you returned to the territory after about a year in Georgia, and first thing you did was come in and attack Jim Duggan. You're going to side with Dr. Death, Akbar, and Hercules. And now we're picking it back up here in early 1985. So, Ted, you became tag team champions with Hercules, but on Christmas night, 1984, you lost the belts to the Rock and Roll Express. And now coming into 1985, you are teamed up with Dr. Death. Do you think the Watts switched you over to working with Doc instead of Hercules because Doc was still relatively green at this time and maybe needed a mentor?
That's exactly it. Bill was always good about that. I mean, I started my career there in Mid-South for him. And, I look back at that and I didn't realize it at the time how unbelievably great that was, because the other thing that Bill brought into Mid-South, the territory, was some of the greatest talent in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they weren't the main eventers, I mean, they were all really good wrestlers. And so no matter who I got in the ring with, I was going to learn something. So it was good.
And that was the case for Doc here. Again, Doc he just started training in 1982. So it's like 2 or 3 years before this.
Yeah.
He had just started. He's still brand new to the business. And this is not a guy who grew up in wrestling.
I mean, he was like fresh out of University of Oklahoma, brother.
Yeah.
He was a Sooner, man. This guy, and I love the guy, and he loved me, and he was such a sweet person.
Fresh out of college, and he's this football player. He's this wrestler, great collegiate athlete. It does make me wonder, though, Ted. At this stage of his career, he's about 3 years in, and now he's being put with you. Are you trying to kind of coach him up on ring psychology and some of the more inner workings of the business during your time with him?
That's exactly why, I mean, like when I broke in, it was Dick Murdoch and Keller Carl Cox and the guys that were the generation ahead of me, of which my dad probably would have been included, except for his death. I know that Keller Carl Cox and my dad knew each other very well. So anyway, but yeah, I mean that's how you do it, and I'm sure that's why Bill put Doc with me, so we could coach him along, and you just learn it as you do it. You pick things up. I mean, there's here's the thing that bothers me about wrestling today is most of the guys that want to be in the business, they go, irregardless of how reputable the school is, the
Hmm.
school can only teach you so much. It's where you really learn this craft is in front of a live audience,
Yeah.
doing it, and night after night, because you might do something one night and get a great response, and you do it the next night in front of a different crowd, and you don't get the response that you expected. And if you don't, then you got to be able to think on your feet and say, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well, I mean, hard to, Jim Duggan credits you a lot with coaching him along because again, Jim he's a raw football talent out of college coming into wrestling, much like Doc, and so yeah,
yeah,
they needed some
and,
help, and you were there.
and stiff. And I went to Bill and I said, gee, thanks a lot, Bill. He's a
You
real
must
nice
really,
guy. He's a real nice guy, but he's killing me.
Bill must have really trusted you. He's putting you with these guys who are, it could be road graders out there for some
Yeah,
opponents.
yeah.
Well, the last thing about Doc, one of the big criticisms of him during this period is his promo ability. That's, eventually he wound up being a pretty good hand out there in the ring and had a lot of success in America and Japan. But yeah, the biggest criticism of him is his promo. What did you think of Doc's skills on the horn?
Not very good.
Yeah.
Not very good. And again, like when he was teamed with me, I pretty much did all the talking. So yeah, he was not. Yeah,
Probably another reason Bill put you with him is he needs somebody to do the talking for him.
yeah, exactly.
Well, Jim Duggan was going to be named Athlete of the Year for 1984, and he won some Lucien Picard cufflinks. And you're going to come out on commentary here in '85 to complain that you deserve the honor and that the cufflinks would go really nice with your suit. The next week, Jim is going to come out in a tux with the cufflinks, and he'll give his wife Deborah a dozen roses. You, Doc, and Akbar are going to surround the ring, but Jim pulls out a lead pipe and scares you all off. So, Ted, we're clearly building toward this best dressed man idea here in early January. When you were first presented with this idea that, hey, you guys are going to put on tuxedos and the crowd is going to judge the way that you look, what's your initial reaction to this
Oh, I
concept?
loved it. I loved it because I mean, you know what's going to happen. I mean, I could have had on the most expensive, just elaborate, good-looking tuxedo as you wanted to, and then, and it's kind of like, by applause, right? Like what? Okay. Contestant number one, contestant number two. Well, I mean, they're going to blow the roof off for Doc.
For Duggan.
Oh, and I'm sorry for Duggan.
Yeah.
And this guy thing. I'm trying to think of what I said in the promo. It's like I said, you can dress a monkey up in a suit, but he's still a monkey. Something like that. Yeah.
I want to say because there's like a few segments that you guys did together, and I want to say in one of them you said something to the effect of like, well, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, something
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
about Duggan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but man, just fantastic stuff. I really liked it too. But one of the criticisms of Bill Watts during this period is that he's a little bit too reliant on gimmicks. Is that the case in your opinion, or did you like all the gimmicky stuff that he was doing?
What do you mean in terms of gimmicks?
Well, there always seemed to be a stip for every match, and it's like the coal miner's glove, and now you guys are coming out in these suits, and just a lot of gimmicks. Now, I personally enjoy it, but I'm curious. You're an old school guy. You grew up in the
Well,
business. What do you think?
here's the thing, brother. I'm gonna tell you what. I will put Bill Watts up against uh, any promoter of that time or era. Uh, Bill was a real smart guy, and it's just about it's kind of like if you can do all those things. I mean, and he didn't. You know what I'm saying? It's like he didn't do all of those gimmick matches with the same two guys. Me and Duggan, in a best dressed man suit, and I don't know whatever the hell else we had, a lumberjack match,
Coal miner's glove and
coal
loser
miners
leaves
club.
town.
Yeah.
A lot of gimmicks, but I mean, when you've got an audience like the Mid-South audience, they were hungry for it, and they wanted the blood and guts, and they wanted the cool stipulations and put people in unique spots. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, me too. And all you naysayers out there, you've never been a wrestler, so shut up.
Shut up. Pipe down. Ted, on this same episode where Jim is going to scare you guys off with a lead pipe, you get a really, really big match, and it's for the North American title against Brad Armstrong. Let's drop in on the final moments.
Sleeper, hold boys. Brad Armstrong's got that sleeper on DiBiase. DiBiase won't have long, and if he doesn't get out of that, he will be on Green Street. Brad Armstrong's got him wrapped up. Ronnie West checking the hands. Zach Barr screaming out there. Ted DiBiase in a lot of trouble as Brad Armstrong has got him. Oh, DiBiase diving for the ropes, and Armstrong just got his throat driven hard into that middle cable. DiBiase, in a desperation move, may have lucked off, or else it may have been intentional, but he has just about decapitated Brad Armstrong. But DiBiase may not be able to pull it back together because he'd been in the grips of that sleeper for so long. DiBiase pulling Armstrong out of the ring onto the floor. No, he's taking Brad Armstrong. He's taking Brad Armstrong and driving his leg around that steel post. Ted DiBiase is pressuring Brad Armstrong's leg around that steel post. Brad Armstrong is writhing in pain as DiBiase dropping on that knee. Looks like he's badly damaged Brad Armstrong's knee. The crowd cheering for Brad Armstrong. DiBiase going for the figure four. He's got the figure four locked up. Ronnie West is asking Brad Armstrong. He's asking him. Brad Armstrong is in excruciating pain. Ronnie West calls for the bell. Brad Armstrong apparently is submitted. Brad Armstrong submitted. He's writhing in agony. And Ted DiBiase, the winner of this match, Ted DiBiase, the new North American champion. Ted DiBiase.
You see the smile on his face as he has the coveted belt across his chest, and here comes Akbar to congratulate him.
Ted DiBiase, the North American champion. He has that 27 pounds of silver and gold. And Skandar Akbar now has the bargaining tool he needed to force everybody to his type of terms.
All right, the new North American champion, and look at that. There's the original North American belt. Hang on, I'm going to zoom in on you. You can move it to your right a little bit. There it is. Look at that.
There it is.
That's before they got that big, heavy version of the belt.
Oh, this is the heavy version, brother.
Oh, is it really?
It is, and it's not it's a replica, but it's an exact replica.
Man, that is incredible.
And it is heavy.
Man, that North American belt was like, it was considered the belt. It was the belt of the territory. Bill Watts's big one. And Ted, I didn't realize it before I started doing research for this episode, but you won your first North American belt back in 1976 when it was still the NWA tri-state version of the championship.
Yeah,
back in those days. So, man, Ted, I know that most fans know the value of being WWF champion and NWA champion. What can you tell us about the significance of that North American belt and what it meant to you as a performer?
Well, I mean, number one, the promotion is not going to put a championship belt on somebody unless they know that that person is capable of carrying it.
Okay, guys, let's hit the pause button on the show real quick to talk about our fantastic sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the guys that we all know and love. We're talking about Blue Chew. Ever since we started talking about Blue Chew here on Everybody's Got a Pod, the question keeps coming up from people, does Blue Chew work? Well, look, if you're asking that question, we want you to know that Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a month for free. Guys, Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. All you've got to do is sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And if you want to know the best part, here it is. It's all done online. So what that means is you can forget about all the visits to the doctor's office. You can forget about having to have those awkward conversations, or how about the worst part, waiting in line at the pharmacy. Skip all of it with a little help from Blue Chew. You can take them anytime, day or night, so that you can plan ahead or be ready when an opportunity arises. And what do you stand to lose? You can try it for free for a month, and we think that you're going to love it and your partner's going to love it. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life without even knowing it, just because you haven't given this a shot. It's a free service. Why not just try it? And if you don't like it, okay, forget it. You don't have to try it ever again. You know, we always say that first impressions are important, but how about lasting impressions? Build up your confidence with Blue Chew, and they're giving you confidence where it counts the very most. Guys, Blue Chew wants men rock hard. That's what they tell me. That's their mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options right now at BlueChew.com. And guys, we've got a special deal for you, our listeners. Again, you can try Blue Chew free. All you've got to do is use our promo code EGAP at checkout, and then just pay $5 shipping. That's it. Just go to BlueChew.com, use our promo code EGAP to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring Everybody's Got a Pod. Man, you know, the North American title, I think that a lot of fans, you know, don't really know about it or think about it very much, but it was a big honor for you to get that belt, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Well, I mean, well, it's, you know, I don't want to be bragging on myself, but if you're the guy carrying the belt, and you're the guy that's you're the number one in the territory.
Absolutely.
So,
and yeah, this was like your third or fourth time carrying that belt. So Watts clearly had a lot of faith in you. So it's really cool that that you got to have it here. I will say though, so Jim Duggan and I recently covered this exact topic, the best dressed man. And I asked him about you winning this belt because, you know, after JYD departed, Jim had become the top baby face in the territory.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, like, Jim, you know, now that you're the top guy, the top baby face in the territory, you know, Ted is coming in. He's essentially fresh back from the Georgia territory, and he's winning the North American belt. And I was like, not that you'd be jealous. Of course not. Ted is your friend. But were you aspiring to get your hands on the North American title now that you were the top baby face? And Jim was like, no. He was like, I was making the money that I wanted to make, and I didn't want another heavy thing to be in my bag as I traveled from town to town. so I'm curious, like, a lot of guys seem to view belts in that light. Is that kind of how you view it as well, where it's just a pain in the ass?
Yes. You know, it's kind of like I'm trying to remember what it was, what belt I had, and then we won. We won the tag team titles or something. So now I was a tag team, world tag team title holder, and I can't remember, but I thought I said, and I can't remember who I said it to. So if you think I'm carrying both of these things all over the country, you're out of your mind.
That's a lot of weight in your bag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And just one belt adds a lot, let alone if you got two or three in there. Forget that.
Yeah, but I had the it's kind of like I don't know. It's the only. I mean, would you always aspire to be the world champion? Only if you understand it in light of the business. In other words, knowing that whoever's got that belt is like, he's at the top of the heap, and he can pretty much get in the ring and make anybody look good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, and that was my aspiration. And so, you know, obviously, you know, I mean, it's a work. You know, you're not really the world champion.
More than anything, it's probably just nice to get a vote of confidence from the company where they're saying, like, we believe in you. You're our guy. Here's our belt.
Yeah.
So Ted, you don't have to give me any figures, but is it safe to assume, again, you're fresh back to the territory? Is it safe to assume you get a little bump in pay when you become the champion in Mid-South?
It's been so long, but yeah, probably, yeah.
It seems logical that you'd want to put a
I
little
mean,
extra cheese on.
maybe not so much. I mean, it's kind of, well, I'll put it this way. If you're a champion and you're carrying the belt, obviously you're pretty much going to be the main event every night,
Yep.
wherever you go. And based on that, the main event gets the big, the biggest payoff.
When you're in the main event, you're at least partially responsible for
You're
the
the guy who the rest of the crowd, the rest of the card is, looking to you to draw the crowd.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you should get a bigger chunk of money.
Yeah.
Well, after the win, you and Hacksaw are off to the races with your rivalry in full force, and you'll be defending the belt against him on a lot of the live shows on the Loop. One significant night is at the Uno Lakefront Arena in New Orleans. It's a non-title match, but Jim is going to defeat you in a tape fist match. And Ted, tape fist match is something that's been coming up a lot on my podcast recently as I'm talking to Jake and Hacksaw. I'm curious, can you educate our audience on the idea of a taped fist match?
No. It's like, okay, you have a match now, and then you tape your fists. And you don't have boxing gloves on, but a taped fist is, but and obviously punching's legal. It's a taped fist match, so you can they're basically, it's almost like throwing a rule book out the window.
When I spoke to Jim about this very tape fist match at the Uno Lakefront Arena, Jim says that he believes that this is the night when he was supposed to get color. Obviously, both of you are going to end up getting color in a tape fist match, but the babyface usually gets it first, so he can then get the heel back later. But Jim says that this is the night when he bladed and you told him it wasn't coming, and he kept gigging himself until finally he was absolutely covered in blood.
It was a rib. It was a rib. Jimmy he says, okay, Teddy. He said, got it. I know more. Little bit more, Jim. Little bit more. After about the fourth time, he went, hey.
Oh, what a great rib.
Oh, it was. He was bleeding like a pig.
Hilarious. Makes you look great too. You got all that blood out of your baby face. This is another thing that I talked to both Jake and Jim about, and it's something that I've never brought up here on the show with you before, and I can't believe it because we've talked about this era and getting color a lot. So I'm curious to hear your perspective. As a reminder for listeners, it's the mid-'80s, and the world was in a bit of a panic during this time over the AIDS epidemic. I mentioned that to ask wrestlers during this period had a reputation for meeting a lot of women and sleeping around, experimenting with drugs, using needles for steroids, etc. Ted, how did you feel about getting color or getting your opponent's blood on you during a period where AIDS was a very real fear in America?
I'll be honest with you, brother. I don't think any of us thought that much about it. I really don't. I mean, it's kind of like, we were like a fraternity. It's kind of like this. It's like, you got this group of guys and they're, so here's all the guys that are in the territory, and those are the guys, any way you match them up that are going to be wrestling each other. Okay. And so that's what it is. Now maybe I would say maybe if somebody came into the territory from someplace who the AIDS epidemic was very high, then you might want to go, wait a minute, I want to make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, we all got tested.
Ah, okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I can't remember for sure. I can't remember a lot of shit now.
It happens to all of us as we get a little older. But yeah, it really struck me, as I go through and watch some of your matches, like there's a lot of instances where you'll, I can't remember who you were working, but you had somebody in like a chin lock and they were bleeding, and you came up and their blood was all over your arm, all over your chest, partially on like your chin and face, and
Yeah,
it's like, man, thinking back on it now, I mean, do you think that you would do things any differently if you had it to do over again?
probably not.
I think that's what Jake and Jim both said too, where they're just like, we didn't really think about it.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
Well, the next week you were going to come out in a tuxedo, but Jim is going to come out and get the better of you and even steal your top hat before you'll return to take on Duggan and Terry Taylor with Doc in a losing effort. Of course, this all brings us to the main subject of the show today. On February 16th episode of Mid-South Wrestling, you're going to have your first of two Best Dressed Man contests with Duggan. JR tells the fans to vote with applause, and of course, you get booed and Jim gets cheered. You make the excuse that the audience is rigged and you want it to do it again. So the next week, there's an electronic meter to measure response. And the meter is, of course, going to determine that Jim wins again. And that brings us to this clip that I cannot wait to watch. Let's have a look.
Agree with this. I think I've been roughed off again. I'm going right over your head. Where's Bill Watts?
Bill Watts is not available right here, right now, but the decision is final.
Joel Watts is out in the TV truck. I'm going to go talk to him right now.
Well, he can go outside if he wants to, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't make any difference because right here's the best dressed man in Mid-South. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, let's send it out to the truck and have these comments from Joel Watts.
Well, I think it's great that Hacksaw Duggan
Are you
won.
going to put up with that? You saw that, Watts.
Hey, I saw it. He beat you guys more than twice.
Prompted him. Ross prompted him for that decision. He as much as told him, cheer for Duggan. Don't cheer for DiBiase. You're going to let that decision stand?
I think so. I think it was a good decision, and we've spent all the time on this thing that we need to. Ted, you lost the contest.
You're just like the rest of them. You're worse than your dad. You're just another Mid-South official that stands behind that hippie, that no good drunken bum Jim Duggan. I've had you all up to here, and I'm leaving. Isn't that Jim Duggan's car?
Well,
isn't that Duggan's car right there?
Well,
is that monitor still on in there?
Well,
Duggan,
yeah.
are you what? Cameraman, get a close-up of this. Duggan, are you watching
Now, wait
me?
a minute. Wait a minute.
Are you watching me? I dropped you in the parking lot before. You're in there gloating like a big shot. Well, gloat over this, Duggan. I'm taking out your car.
Wait a minute! No! It... Gee whiz. Davey, No. No.
Holy shit.
You hear Jim swearing?
DBS.
Get that! Get out of my way!
We're going to try to...
Now,
All right.
here's what I want to tell you.
Yeah.
That's how hard it is to smash a windshield of a car. I mean, oh my gosh, I beat that thing to death. I mean, and the other thing Jim said was, it was so, so mingled up there that he couldn't see. That he literally, he was trying to, I don't know, pick over the top or whatever. I don't know. But anyway.
Probably had his head hanging out of his window trying to drive.
Yeah. But,
Man, too funny. And Jim actually, when Jim and I watched that, he said the same thing. He was like, you see how the glass didn't actually break? It just kind of like kept splintering over and over again. He said Ted was absolutely exhausted from swinging the shit out of that bat because he was trying to break it out.
yeah, I was. Good gosh almighty,
Yeah. And
this goes to show you, I mean, you can get a ping on your windshield, but you ain't gonna ever do that.
Man, it is specialty glass and a good thing, obviously you don't
Yeah,
want the
yeah.
glass shattering into people's faces, but man, Jim also mentioned that that is actually his personal car, as you referenced, he's trying to drive around with it. He said for months and months afterwards, Deborah was still finding little bits of glass in there, so Bill Watts paid for the windshield, but they still paid the price for that whole gimmick.
Oh gosh, I love that guy.
So when it's all said and done, how did you feel about the whole angle? Did you feel like it was a big success and a good way
Oh
to
gosh, yeah,
things forward?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, it's kind of like when you talk about Jim Duggan, you're talking about a guy with character. You're talking about a guy with a ton of charisma, and whatever he might have lacked in wrestling skills, he made up for it in charisma. And so yeah, that's why he was there. That's why he got put in that spot.
Who's scoring big this NBA season? You are, with all the new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From monster slams to dishing the rock to cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make at DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook because every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code EGAP. That's code EGAP for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. It was the two of you together. It was kind of like the perfect marriage of wrestlers, where you've got the mic skills and you've got like the very very polished ring skills. Jim does not have super polished ring skills, but man, charisma and buckets. So it was like the perfect combination of guys to put together to really get it over with the audience, right?
One night, I told him I said, Jim, okay, throw me out on the floor, so. I said, clothesline me, and I took the bump over the top rope backward to the floor and everything. And so, I start to get up, and he sticks his head between the ropes. He goes, DiBiase, and I go, Duggan, over here. yeah. You can't see me, can you? That was just me ribbing him.
For fans who don't know, Jim, the crossed eye was not a gimmick. For years, I thought Jim was intentionally crossing his eyes for a gimmick. No, it's real. And Jim had very poor vision without his glasses. So that's another rib on Jim.
And what's really great is that they found a way to fix it.
Yeah, he's got some doctor, and I wish I knew the guy's name. I'll have to ask Jim again because he told me this guy's name, but this guy was a miracle worker, and now Jim doesn't have crossed eyes anymore. He's got great vision, just incredible.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, it's the other thing I wanted to mention since you brought it up is that a lot of wrestlers that I work with nowadays, young guys, they'll say like, Marcus, can I show you this move I've been wanting to try? Or like, I really want to learn this new move. And I'm like, hey, all the moves are really great. But I always say, let me talk to you about Jim Duggan real quick. And I'll show them like a clip of Jim, and it'll be Jim body slamming, maybe throwing some clotheslines, a lot of punches and kicks and stuff like that. But the crowd is whipped into a frenzy. I'm like, do you see how the crowd's reacting to Jim? It's not because he's doing moves. It's because of the stuff he's doing in between the moves, right?
Well, yeah, that's just it. It's kind of like every wrestling match is a story, and you either tell a good story or you tell a shitty story.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just the basics is like, okay, you shine the baby face right at the front of the match, and then in your effort to continue with him. It's kind of like everything backfires on you. In other words, you make a move and he counters it, or he makes a move and you counter his move, and then he counters your move again.
Mm-hmm.
And then and I used to get mad, and I would slap the ropes and stuff. So, okay, and I'd go back into the lockup again. Well, then you look for the opening to, okay. I would always do the deal, it's like every time I loaded that glove, I mean, I literally stuck my hand up in the air, and I think you may have seen it on tape, obviously, and you can see me, pushing something up in the glove,
Yep.
and the people are all going crazy. So, and everybody goes, and I've had a lot of people ask me, says, what did you really put in the glove? I said, well, it was a small one of one of the little mini bars of soap you get in the hotel.
Yeah.
It was that wrapped with white
Tinfoil? Wrapped with what? Tinfoil?
Oh no, it was the wrap was tape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the wrap was tape, but I mean, what was under the tape? A very small bar of hotel soap. Yeah.
How long would one bar of soap last you before you had to re-up and go get a new one?
And not I don't know. Pretty long time. Yeah. I mean, it was never in there long enough to melt.
Now, I've been meaning to ask you about this because it's something that Arn Anderson actually brought up when he found out that I was doing the loaded glove gimmick out on the independent scene. Folks, for those of you who don't know, Ted and I filmed a thing where he gave me the glove. It's really cool, so go out of your way to find that online. But I told when Arn found out about it, he said, I don't think DiBiase was changing his gloves very often. He said, I think that was like his rib on the wrestling world, that smelly glove.
It was. I mean, brother. I mean, think about that. I'm wearing that glove every night, sweating in it and everything, and it would be all, crinkled and it'd dry out. But buddy, then I'd get guys down in a like a reverse chin lock, and then just put my hand with the glove. That's when they really start kicking.
That could have been your new finish.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. Yeah.
So, well, in the spirit of the gimmick, I'm gonna never change my glove. Keep this thing going. Ted, one last question.
Back then, you know what's crazy is I couldn't find a black one. Yeah, what I was using, the gloves that you wear in a gym.
Yeah.
Okay, to protect your hands, and they're cut off, and they're perfect. But back then, I couldn't find one that was black, and so I would have to think, that old liquid shoe polish.
Yes.
That there was a little ball at the end of it, and you dip it in there.
Yeah.
Well, I had to paint my gloves black. And then later, once I'm no longer doing it, and I go in the sporting goods store, and I said, "Oh shit, there's a black glove."
Now they're everywhere. It's what's really funny is there's a lot of promo photos of you out there with the glove where you're standing there and you've got your fist up, and I've noticed in some of them it's like the glove will be partially black, but you see a little white poking through in some places, so that explains it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, one last question, and we're gonna let you go. Ted, we saw Bill's son, Joel Watts, there at the end, and I don't think we've talked about him at all. Likely are not going to talk about him very often here, but for those who don't know, Joe was a play-by-play guy, but he was also a very good producer behind the scenes. And anytime you see a music video on Mid-South TV during this time, there were a lot of them, Joel produced them and edited them.
Yeah.
So Ted, I want to know, I know that you were close with Bill. Did you have much of a relationship with Joel, or what can you tell us about him?
Well, I mean, I liked Joel. Everybody liked him, and that was the thing, was like, he really wasn't, he was around, but he wasn't. We would see, we didn't see him out on the road. We saw him at TV. And back then we did our TV shows every 3 weeks. We'd have we would do 3 hours of television, And then 3 weeks later we would come back and do 3 more hours.
Wow. Okay, so
So that's about the only time I ever saw Joel. But yeah, he's a good guy.
he would go on to.
I
Go ahead.
wonder what he's doing now.
I don't know. A talented guy by all accounts, and again, he would go on to work in the WWF after Mid South closed its doors. He was doing some stuff behind the scenes with Bruce. I think he actually got Bruce Pritchard hired by the WWF.
Yeah.
So man, a talented kid. Whatever he's doing, hope he's still making money editing videos.
Well, I tell you what. I'm gonna tell you something. And a lot of guys don't like Bill Watts. And I love Jake to death, but he hates him.
Yes, he does.
He hates Bill Watts. I mean, maybe Jake has a reason to. I don't know, or maybe he felt like Bill never really used him to his potential.
It was their relationship in WCW. That's what completely terminated it as far as Jake was concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happened at WCW?
After WrestleMania 8 in the Hoosier Dome, Jake left the company, and he had agreed in principle on a contract with, I believe it was Kip Fry, who was running things at the time in WCW, and the contract was sizable. I want to say over the life of the contract, it was going to pay out something like $2 million to Jake. So Jake was psyched, couldn't wait to sign it. Well, while Jake is taking his 90 days away, Kip Fry is out, Bill Watts is in. Bill Watts comes and sees this contract that Kip Fry wrote up, and he says, well, I'm not going to pay Jake Roberts that. We've already got him hamstrung. He already burned his bridge in the WWF. There's nowhere else he can go, so he's going to take what I give him. And that's essentially what happened. Jake came in, Bill tore up his old contract right in front of him, wrote up a new one, and Jake had no alternative but to sign it. So that's why Jake does not like Bill Watts.
And I guess my, my thought there was, now how much was the other contract?
I want to say it was like a guarantee of $1,000 per night was the new contract. So every time Jake stepped into the ring, he got $1,000, and so it was like everything was performance based. So it's like, okay, Jake, if you go make all the towns and you can make all your money back. It was like one of those kind of deals.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not picking sides here, but obviously, if he had made the deal like that with whoever made that deal with him, really didn't know wrestling, probably.
No, I don't believe that Kip Fry was much of a wrestling guy.
And would know, have any idea, what they got paid. But that was substantially more than, I don't think anybody's ever had a contract like that. Maybe Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I think at the time it was like Jake was going to be getting what they called Sting money, where it's like just a sizable amount of money every single year. I want to say back in the day, Sting money was something like $750 plus per year. Yeah. And so Jake was psyched to be getting that opportunity, but it just evaporated for him, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he has good cause to hate Bill.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be a huge fan.
And again, I don't know, because I don't know Bill. I mean, I get along with Bill. I mean, Bill was a good businessman. He was a shrewd businessman. I mean, Bill Watts, took what had been. I mean, the Mid-South Territory at one time was like, it was the talk of the country.
Yeah.
And that was because of Bill Watts. And Bill Watts, his ability to draw and get, good talent in there and whatever. But
and tell stories. And look, it's there is one defense for Bill, and I'll mention it out loud right now. Bill, when he came in, was tasked with reducing overhead costs in WCW, so he was trying to cut money every single place he could. So when he comes in the door and he sees a contract on his desk for Jake Roberts that pays out $2 million over the life of it, of course he wasn't going to do that. It was Bill's job to reduce overhead costs, not increase it. Yeah. So he was in a nutshell, he was just doing his job, but unfortunately, there's a pretty big casualty along the way with Jake.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, Ted, I love talking about Mid-South. I love talking about Bill Watts and the creative stuff that he was doing in the territory at the time. And the story is not over. We're going to keep talking about it. And eventually we're going to get to the blow-off, which is a loser leaves town, tuxedo, coal miner's glove, cage match. I think I got all of them.
That one match had every gimmick imaginable. Dressed in tuxedos inside a caged match, loser leave town, and I don't know however many other stipulations there were to it, but
a lot of gimmicks.
Yeah, a lot of gimmicks.
So we'll talk about all of it here coming up.
I think I probably lost that match because I was probably getting ready to go somewhere.
Yeah, maybe you were about to take a tour of Japan or something like that. I can't really recall, but I'll do all the research and we'll dig into it here coming up soon on the show. But Ted, I want to thank you for your time, and folks, we'll look forward to seeing you next week, right, pal?
You bet, buddy. Take care of yourself. Just in case any of you fans out there may have forgotten, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man. Yeah.
We'll catch you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pot.